So, how many of you guys have played Hotline Miami? So, I think a lot of people played Hotline Miami here, and if I asked you what did you like about Hotline Miami, chances are you will mention something about its presentation. Hotline Miami in its base is just a shmup, a free access shmup. You just pick weapons, shoot people. But what made Hotline Miami so memorable was the presentation, the effects, the small attention to details. Like for example, when you hit an enemy and it spreads its blood and the text that shows up at the end. Right now I will talk about what kind of some stuff that you can do to improve the feel of your game. And so yeah, I made this little project. I will show you a couple techniques to make your game feel more juicy, more polished. So here we have a simple Pong game. Oh wait. So this is so it plays like a normal Pong game. You just swing the ball around and try not to make it hit your goal. So right now it just feels like there is no punch. There is no consequence to your actions. The ball just keeps going around. So we want the ball to have a sort of a weight. So one technique is before the weight. Let's look at the ball when it moves. It's just a circle. You don't. If you pause the game, you can't really tell where the ball is going. It's just a circle. So one common technique is to make things squash. So in the case of Pong, you can make this ball squash depending on its velocity. So if it's going, so you see the ball is going squashing depending on where it's going. I also added a trail renderer. It's pretty easy to do in Unity. So this is basically just a script that changes the Y scale of this ball depending on its velocity. It's really easy to add, and it adds a lot more realism to your game. Next will be so the ball doesn't really feel like it has a weight. It's just when you hit the ball, it just goes to wherever it was coming from. So let's add some screen shake. Screen shake actually gives some weight to your ball. So when it hits, this is a little bit exaggerated, but you can tell that now the ball is hitting, and if it hits the one of the goals, the screen shakes a lot more. Maybe you want to have a little bit of don't exaggerate this screen shake because it can be maybe the player will not like it. So next, so the borders. Now when the ball hits one of the borders, you can't really tell if really you can't tell if I scored a point or not. So the score just changes, but there isn't much to it. So let's add some border effects. So now you can see that in this border, the vertical borders, you can see there is a kind of a small explosion happening there. So just to give it more, let's say, weight. And when it's hitting the bottom and the top borders, you can see it's changing colors. So next will be the score. It just right now it just changes. The text just changes its number. So we can make it look more fancy. So it just changes number. We can use what's called tweening. I will explain that. Now you can see it's kind of goes to scales up then scales down really fast, and also it changes colors depending on which score the point. So what is tweening? So tweening is basically a short term for in-betweening. It was introduced in Flash, if you guys have used that. And basically in Flash, you can, for example, make this frame of a character, for example, sitting here. The next frame, maybe the character will be here. and basically you use Flash to create in between frames. So instead of making 10 frames for each one, Flash basically makes the frames for you. So this technique has been adopted by many other engines. Unity has some libraries like .win. I think you should be using that. It's pretty simple. For this case, we use twinning for this score. So what you do is basically you set the score scale to something like, okay, let's see. Okay, so something like for example 1.2, and then you tell the twinning engine to just bring it back to 1. And it's pretty simple. Like if I open the code editor, it's just one line of code. So score. Where is it? Well, I can't find it, but basically you do something like transform dot local scale or transform dot do scale. So basically .win makes me just gives me the ability to go to an end value with a duration. So it's better than using the animator, the built-in animator, because you have to make an animator controller and you create assets for it. Basically here you just do everything by code. And moreover, you can, for example, you can set this is what's cool about it, you can set the ease of this twinning. So basically, motion in real life, it just doesn't go linearly. So if let's say the character was here, you wanted to go to that position, it doesn't go linearly. You have to give some easing, like it goes fast first, then goes just slows down. So easing curves, you can wheel that up. So this is linear. It doesn't really look good. This one goes slow, then goes fast. This one overshoots the target. This one is elastic. So basically .win allows you to it's not just .win, basically whatever you're using. So set ease. Well, there's supposed to be some auto completion, but basically you can do something like out quad. So out quad basically is this one. This one. So yeah, the twin goes according to this curve. So when you use twinning, your game is basically really looks juicy, looks more dynamic. In this case, I didn't overuse twinning. I just used twinning for this score elements, for the score text. So hold on. So you see the score first goes really big, like this happens in half a second. You can't really see it. It just contributes to the feel of the game. Okay, so I think oh no. Okay, so you see I said first I set the scale to be something slightly bigger, and then tell the twinning engine to bring it back to 1. So that's what it does. The color, you can also twin colors with .win. You can twin all sorts of values like position, color, everything really. So yeah, .win is free. You probably should download it and experiment with it. So next thing is ball impact. Let's see what this one does. Oh yeah, so the borders. So basically, just add some fancy effects to the borders. I will explain how I did these effects later. So it basically just gives some weight to the ball. Basically, in your game, there is I like to think there is some mechanic that the game revolves around. For example, in Pong, you can either hit the ball and it goes back, or the ball hits the border. So you want these two events to be really prominent. You want them to have some weight in your. So you have to make them look really fancy. So in this case, I just added some trails I also used tweening for this. So hold on. So I have some trail renderers, you know, the basic trail renderer in Unity. Okay. So these are just trail renderers that the one that Unity comes with, and I have them both, two of them, to a parent, and I tell .win to scale the parent when it hits the border. So what it does is basically the trail renderer just stretches out and with trail renderer also has some Brownian motion, which is just shaking. So as it's scaling, as it's spreading, the trails are shaking. This gives a really nice effect. It's just a hack. It's not. So it gives this really nice electric effect. And I use the same thing for the trail behind the ball. It's also some Brownian motion. Hey. So maybe we can make it even more shaky, or we can make you can experiment with stuff. So maybe we can make it give it more. It looks messy, but it works. Maybe you can. Okay, it looks messy, but you get the idea. So yeah, just experiment until you find what works best. But don't exaggerate these effects, because Pong still has to be Pong. You know, you have to play it and enjoy the game. Yeah, it looks messy. So sometimes you want to go a step further. I like to go this route. So maybe you want to invert the screen. Don't do this if you do it. Basically, just tell the player that there is some epilepsy going on here. So just say some epilepsy warning at the beginning, because right now you're just emphasizing the fact that the player has lost a point. So when it hits, you just invert the colors. You can do this with the shader. If you want. I use this asset called colorful effects. So when it hits, you just go negative.
But you added some glitches, no?
Yeah, some glitches as well. I use glitches every time. I mean, it just adds more value. But remember, you need to have a fun game first. Juice is just it's just like the strawberry on top of your cake. You need a fun game first. It needs to be playable. So yeah, lots of glitches. What else? This is also tweening the small effect, the one that you see here. It just, yeah, I tween the alpha of this sprite. And when it appears, okay. When it appears, it also scales it also tweens the scale of this object. So yeah, this is basically the project. Try to find what works best for your particular game. This was just Pong. So let's look at some games that made it. I think really made good use of game polish. I have a lot of games here, but let's look at. So Cave Story is one of my favorites. It just doesn't overuse the juiciness. It just feels like a tight game. So yeah, wait. But this is the final boss, so it's everything is shaking. So yeah, I just wanted to show you like when the player hits the boss here, the boss just changes colors. This just gives some feedback to the player that they're actually hitting the target. Whereas the explosions, I think one of the best I've seen in 2D in pixel art games. Explosions in Cave Story are really nice. Okay, so next one. I think you've seen this one. It's like a mobile game. But yeah, I like the sense of motion in this game. So like games are all about making the player feel good. So if it's an action game, you want the player to feel strong. If it's a racing game, you want them to feel fast. If it's a puzzle game, you want them to feel smart. So this is just basic racing game, but it emphasizes the sense of speed. That's why it's so good to play this one. You see the trails going, the exaggerated perspective. See everything is going towards the center point. Yeah, the text. So yeah, this game feels good, but I'm pretty sure I played a lot of games like these, but they didn't make me feel as good as this one. And the difference is just the polish. They just put so much emphasis into the effects. Galaxy, I think you guys mentioned it before. Looks really nice, like the effects and the... I'm pretty sure they used a lot of tweening here. So like you see these triangles. This is just tweening. You just create the triangle at say 2 times the original scale, and you tell the tweening engine in just one line of code go to the scale of 1. So it looks like it's shrinking. Lots of particle systems here. Again, you need to have a fun game first before you can add the juice. This one is one of my favorites. It's still not out yet, but it looks really nice. So it's just all about just making the screen more dynamic, more coming to life, really. So lots of particles in here, movement. You can do that with tweening as well. And I think the music also adds some value to this little trailer. I like to think if you want to build some atmosphere, you need to have a good graphics, good story or lore, and good music. So every one of these have like 30% of the atmosphere of your game. So right now we're just talking about the visuals, but you also need to think about the soundtrack of your game, how it fits the mood of whatever you're building. Some racing games. Sorry?
Sound effects.
Sound effects. Oh, so yeah, I wanted to add sound effects here, but I didn't have the time. So yeah, sound effects add a lot of like they have an axis of their own. Like so, for example, if the ball hits the paddle here, we can't really tell what material is the ball and what material. Right now, we can't tell what these two elements are made of. But if you add sound effects, maybe you can. Now you understand maybe it's a metal or so. Yeah, sound effects add a lot of realism to your game. And so yeah, this is one racing game. You can see there are some chromatic aberration here. Don't overuse it, but this game I think uses it in a good way. You see the chromatic aberration here. It just gives more a sense of speed. Motion blur. Some trails here behind the aircraft, behind the vehicle. So yeah, for racing games, I was working on this game, but it's not complete yet. Just to do some self-promotion, I guess. Okay. I just show you some little effects that contribute to the feeling of your game. There was supposed to be a video, but okay, actually it's so this is in a car or a boat. So yeah, about the sound effects, in this game I wanted to have some a sense of speed, just emphasize the sense of speed. So yeah, I added some. So you can hear the engine changing the pitch. The sound of the engine changes pitch according to the velocity. So wait. So yeah, it's really simple effect, but adds some realism. There's also the trails, like wind. These are simple effects that you can add maybe in a day, but they add a lot of value to your game. Some particle systems behind the aircraft. 4 of them. Okay. Also the number here, it changes color depending on the speed. So if you're going but if you're going really fast, it goes red. There was supposed to be some shooting in this game, but I don't know, I just gave up on the idea. And lots of tweening in here. So you see the engine or the what is it called, the yeah, basically that's. So yeah, you see the scale, it just keeps scaling. And this was really simple, just tweening one line of code. I just tell it start from scale 0 to scale 1 with an easing curve. I see some games like they just some effects just snap, like they just appear out of nowhere. You don't want to have that in your game, so just use tweening. Start from scale 0 to scale 1, and it makes your game kind of dynamic. Yeah. So what else?
What about the real speed? Is it the same? I mean, if you use this button, so you change your velocity for your object, or it's you just make some effect that has some velocity, but the object moves slow.
Oh yeah, the car is actually moving kind of slow, but I just yeah, I just emphasize the sense of speed. That's all. That's all it is about. I mean, racing game, it just make the player feel better, make the player feel fast and unreachable.
It's also good in case of optimization, I think.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to make them view
Yeah.
for the objects.
So I had some problems with collision. Like, for example, when you're going really fast, some objects go through other objects, and so I had to slow down the speed, but also exaggerate the effect. Let's see. Street Fighter. I think this one is really good in terms of. Yeah, it's. I don't know what's going on here. Oh.
Probably can Google it.
Yeah, okay, well, let me just try another. It's just VLC. So yeah, this one you... Okay. But the effects are really nice in this one. So you can see they use a lot of sprite trails, I like to call them. Whenever there is some super move, you see these sprites. This is also easy to make, but it adds some effects to your game. Screen shaking, a lot of it. You can notice you will notice that the game shakes every time the player or someone hits someone. Yeah. So let's say you were making a fighting game. It's no shame to just look at these games and try to replicate some of these effects. Eventually you will find your own style. You will keep taking effects from different games, and eventually you will have your own kind of personality. Your game will have its own personality. This one also exaggerates speed. You see there's some foreground elements. You see like this cloud here. I just add some speed to the game. So yeah, right now let's see there's a small talk about game juice. It's going to be a talk inside a talk. So, but it's alright. I think we're just here to learn. Just to see by yourself how much value Game Juice adds. So yeah, I think that's it for me. If you guys have any questions, maybe feel free to ask them.
Just send this video.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, it will be also nice if you can experiment with your project, with this ping pong project.
Oh, so maybe I can share it.
Source code, yeah.
Yeah, sure, yeah. and it's really I just overuse tweening. So there's this little effect here. You see, like the balls, the trails kind of go. So yeah, again, it's just Brownian motion or shaking, and when you start the parent of these trails, just start with a so an increased scale, and then they go to 0. So 0, no trails at all. If you purchase Dotwin Pro, you can this is so yeah. If you have Dotwin Pro, you can get these components. So instead of writing code, you just stick this component to your object and tell it how long do you want this animation to be, whether it plays automatically or not. If it's a scale, movement, rotation, color, there's a lot of stuff here. The end value. So in my case, it starts at 2, and then it scales to 0. Loops, and then the easing. So you can have it, let's say, for example, in back. Let's see what it's going to give us. So yeah, it's not very apparent. Let's actually experiment with some tweening. Let's just to show you what it does.
It's amazing how these complicated looking effects are actually made using some simple step-by-step approach.
Yeah, that's
I was very curious how you did that. I just imagined all sorts of things, like you generate a lot of meshes, then you using the shader, you move the vertices, and it's all about trail renderers. It's amazing.
Yeah, I use a lot of trail renderers. They're really useful.
I would never thought of the Brownian motion myself, to be honest.
Yeah, Brownian motion is pretty good. Actually, I just took this script from this guy called, if you guys know him, Keijiro Takahashi. He's on GitHub. He makes a lot of good.
He has a lot of interesting shaders.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, his repository count is astonishing, and it's not possible to find anything important there.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. There's the Brownian motion. I took it from here too. There's some really good stuff. So yeah, maybe I can put it in the group as well. Let's see. Yeah, for Brownian motion, just what it looks like. Okay. It's just shaking, but it's not snappy. It just goes smoothly somewhere.
Does it use some internal tweening or like?
No, I don't think this is considered tweening. I think it just uses some mathematical equations to go from position to another.
It looks something like some Perlin noise.
Yeah, he uses some parallel noise here. You can adjust the randomness.
Let the ball just go somewhere and run in motion.
Yeah.
And some trails that they do with like anime rockets and pencils.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's gonna look like that. So let's use some tweening here. We will couple it with. Okay, let's remove. You just add the component. It's really easy. Okay, local move to the opposite.
Even without the component, it would be not very much hard to do stuff.
Yeah.
If you know, like the technique of creating, like it uses certain functions.
Yeah, it's gonna be really easy. Like maybe one line of code.
I also said that.
Devil is in the details. They have a sort of a competition between the tween authors in the asset store, and they constantly comparing their tween with the others. So making a tweening library is easy. making it work fast and performant is a whole new level of
Yeah.
stuff. So you can add these twinning functions, but and if it's gonna work in your project, it's gonna work only in your project, on your exact examples. It will work faster than these generic solutions. But just for experimenting these, I also use DoTween a lot.
Yeah. So you see, it just goes fast. Then let's make it. Oh, it's not. So it just goes to the target, but doesn't stop there. It just out elastic. These ones from out circ to here, they're just typical easing. They don't have any overshoot. They just go fast then slow down. This outbounds. Looks bouncy, yeah. Well, you can animate some. Let's see. We can also animate the sprite, the alpha of this ball. So make it 0 at first. So it just appears. So it's easy, and the ball doesn't just appear out of nowhere. The scale maybe. Let's actually couple twinning with Brownian motion. Yeah, it's just there's simple animations to make, and you don't have to. I don't. In my almost all projects, I never create animators. You just have to create animator controller, then go, and it occupies space in the assets. I always try to find my way around making the animation just with twinning.
There's
somehow.
Also a very bad thing about Animator is that it was first created for the 3D characters, and it has a lot of things like blend trees and all sorts of stuff, and they decided that they won't use another animation engine, let's say, for their 2D and for the UI. And it's actually not possible at times to create animation that looks like this, because it forces you to fill the initial key values, and one thing with twinning that twinning can do that Animator cannot is that it cannot take not the complete, not the last frame of the animation and then animate from that. So for example, if you have a ball moving and the Animator forces you to animate your ball all the way from the start to the end, but the twinning, you can just stop the twin in the process and animate it somewhere else. And this is not just not possible with Animator.
I think it's a problem if you animate some jumping. Maybe jumping will always occur in the word position. You can't just jump somewhere else.
Yes, it's also not possible. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a mess. Animator, they have to rework it for 2D. There are lots of leftovers from 3D, like you said. Blending and stuff.
They just need completely another solution for these things. But I think they won't do it because they have a lot of competing twinning engines on the SSR.
They would rather buy an asset to students.
And the thing is, those twins that are script-based, they are all free because they are. But this DoTween Pro, like the components, it's.
Yeah.
I've also bought it, but I've never.
There is only the components and the path. There is another path. paths. I use it for my other game, just to make some paths for the enemies to go. But yeah, I think it's pretty useful, and it supports the developer if you purchase it.
Mm-hmm. I think that Unity added several nice specs for Steam machine.
Uh-huh.
Have you tried
I've
them?
heard it, but I don't have 2017. This is only an old version of Unity. Like, let's see. It's 5.2 point.
Yeah.
It's a beta version. It came out a year ago, maybe. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I haven't tried Cinema Machine. I don't think I can use it somehow. I don't know. Maybe it's for 3D. I don't know how to.
They have shown. I haven't used it myself too. Didn't have time yet, but they showed a very cool usage in the platformer. Like the girl walks out of the building, it walks by some store where the cookies are sold, and the Cine Machine dynamically changes the 2D camera size, and it emphasizes, it keeps the frame, like you tell it to keep the girl like in the lower right half of the screen, so it creates some nice composition, and store, let's say, store name should be in the upper left side of the screen, and it tries to match the composition of the camera to match this.
That's great.
So it's a very, let's say, procedural first approach, but I haven't used it yet, unfortunately.
And no code required, right? Everything is from the editor.
Yes, yes.
That's great.
Okay. Something else? Or I can.
Well, I want to show you do some self-promotion again. Just show you a trailer of something I'm working on right now.
I'm just curious, what is the date of release of the game?
I don't know, honestly. Like,
You should go to DevGam in Moscow this May. Yes. Judging by the quality of the games that were in Minsk a few days ago, your game will crush all others participants.
I'm not really. I don't want to crush anybody, but yeah, I will think about it.
I think Unity will, if it's made by Unity, Unity can even may provide a separate booth for you.
I heard about it, like some prizes maybe, or some.
Yes, they have prizes too.
The trailer first needs some epilepsy warning, so yeah, just to warn you, there is some epilepsy going on here. Yeah, this one is the composer. So yeah, lots of tweening here. So for example, just so this boss, when it comes down, it's just an outbounds tweening. So you see, it's literally just go to the component and I set the easing curve to outbounds, and it looks like this. Yeah. Also lots of glitching, some trail effects here.
No, dreaming besides the action that's going on.
Yeah. So trails.
Action like adventure.
So yeah, you can see it really well, but there is some trails here.
Yeah.
Some like score when score goes.
When I first watched this thing, I thought that you used some custom engine for the rendering.
Yeah, it's just a Unity. Yeah, but
that's very interesting.
I apply an effect to kind of reduce the colors to a specific palette. So there's only like 16 colors in my palette. So any gradients or anything, they just kind of clamp to this palette. So everything looks consistent.
Is this a post effect or?
Yeah, it's possible.
And can you show us, if it's possible, the original sprites?
The original, okay.
This is the unique content.
Okay. Maybe you have to turn off the camera now because no, I'm just joking. Just kidding.
I'll put my hand.
It's alright, sorry. For the boss, for example, there's some lot of parts, so I can show you the actual. So yeah, the boss is just like this. Yeah,
Cool.
kind of like this. This is the eye. There's an eye that sits on top here. It keeps following you. Whenever you're going, just the eye keeps going. I can open the project right now because it's gonna take maybe 10 minutes to load. Yeah, it's kind of big and my computer doesn't really. These are some of the hands, like the boss's arm. So yeah, just sprites and there's nothing fancy going on here. It's just lots of tiny details that contribute to a bigger picture, really.
I think as the game is really close to release, you have to focus now on promotion also.
Marketing, yeah, that's the hardest part, I think. Like you don't, yeah, it's pretty. I mean, when you're making games, you just want to focus on the game, actually. But
Yeah,
when you close the release, you don't know what to do. I mean, nobody.
Really common mistake. So a lot of like indie studios with the nice game ideas, with actually nice games like Aviva, I guess. Yeah.
Aviva?
Don, can you show Aviva team?
Aviva?
Okay.
Can I Google it maybe?
Put,
Yeah.
Aviva.
they won the Invention Cup, but they like didn't really focus on marketing, and so
Yes, this
Oh,
one.
that's some.
and so they basically failed. So the sales were not high,
Oh,
but the game is actually nice.
so where's this game from again? Is it from? It's not from Russia, right? Russian. Oh,
Isn't that those guys from the Microsoft Imagine Cup?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought they have Microsoft. Why did they fail?
Who knows?
Actually, Microsoft didn't buy.
I have a
it,
conversation
so,
in Moscow Devgan. They say that they have some problems with like monetization and PR. Stuff like that.
yeah, they just focus on what's the game's idea, and they didn't spend any time on marketing.
But I would say it's a success because most of the I think it was their first project, and I think
Yeah.
that is a success because a lot of people just don't finish their project and never ship it. So I think it's a success in a way.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, of course, in this way, yeah.
They don't have enough juice. That's their problem.
That's the definitely.
This one is
Oh
used.
yeah, they have decided to add it at least to the logo.
But I mean, it's pretty successful though. I mean, 91 reviews from 12 made. It's nothing like viral, but it's pretty successful for a puzzle game.
Okay, thanks. I'll stop the video now.
All right, that's
I
great.
think we'll
Yeah,
have a round of applause.
Yeah, thank you.
that's
Thanks.
really nice workshop.
Mhm.